Boker Tov, good morning. Today is Friday, the 19th of November, Erev Shabbat, Parshat Vayishlach. Yaakov has been through so much. His years with Lavan and the fear that he has at the first half of the Parsha, what his brother will do to him when he comes to meet him. Which are thankfully fears that he does not come to fruition. Hashem makes it clear. The angel figure, makes it clear to him. The wrestling figure makes it clear to him, and so he manages in his interaction to put off his brother, to keep him at bay, to make it clear he's not going to travel with him. He's not going to have an entourage, some guards going with him. He's going to go on his own way. And so when we finish that story, we're then told two things. First, he goes to a place called Sukkot. He builds himself there a house, and he makes Sukkot for his animals, some types of sheds for his animals. And that's why it's called Sukkot. And according to Rashi, this is an 18-month, there's 3 seasons. He goes through three difficult seasons that are there, a winter, summer, winter, and so it's a chunk of time when he's still not yet safely at home. He's still, Ramban makes sure to tell us, Sukkot is still Me'ever HaYarden. It's not yet in Israel for whatever reason. He is there. And only after that 18-month period does he then make his move into Israel. Vayavo Yaakov Shalem Shechem. Yaakov came Shalem to the city of Shechem. The Rashbam tells us that means simply that the city's name is Shalem, Salem, right? Shalem, Salem. Also known as Shechem in some way or another, right? That's how it seems to work. So there's nothing to be made of this pasuk. It is what it is, and he actually tells you if anybody tries to read it otherwise, namely his grandfather, who's going to quote the Midrash, we'll see in a moment, is to'ehu lefi pshuto lefi pshat. He's making an error in not understanding the simple rendering of the text. So maybe his grandfather will be guilty as charged in this process. But this is what Rashi quotes. Shalem. This place is not just Salem, but it's from the word shalem, which means whole. Whole. In what sense did Yaakov come whole to the city of Shechem? Pause. The Ibn Ezra. The Ibn Ezra says we should understand that things are going well for him until now, but they're going to start going south for him in a few moments with the story of Dinah. That's the contrast. It's a powerful read, and that is a significant piece of information for us to have as we analyze the psukim. But I just wanted to sit with the Rashi. Shalem begufo. He came whole in his body. Shinitrape mitzala ato. He had healed from the last we met him. He was a limper. He was limping from that experience with the wrestling match, and seemingly that had stayed with him for a period of time. By the time he comes to Israel, he is healed. Shalem b'mamono. He is whole with regards to his possessions. Shalo chaser klum mikol oto daron. He really does not have any financial impact from all of that gift giving. The gift giving that's described in the previous story to his brother Esav, which Ramban actually contends he continues to do for many years. Quoting Ramban, quoting the Midrash, for many years he continues to pay tribute to his brother. A totally different understanding. We kind of said goodbye is goodbye, but no, it seems to continue. But you know what? He's doing okay. Shalem, the third Shalem, b'torato, his Torah is whole. Shelo shachach talmudo beveit Lavan. He didn't forget all of his learning when he was in the house of Lavan. It's very interesting that is what we point out here. And I think just the choice of the Midrash to define Shlemut in this way is really honing in on the way in which a human being should look at himself or herself. and consider, what are my essential things that help ensure that I'm whole. And they are health. You got your health, you got everything, right? So shalem begufo, that his body's okay, he's doing all right, he has his health. B'mamono is about financial security, and people know that life is very difficult to work through if you're always worried about whether or not you can actually make ends meet. And lastly, and we shouldn't forget this, shalem b'torato, he's whole in his Torah, meaning he has a spiritual life. And I think there are a lot of people who kind of work the shleimut with missing one or the other. People who, we sometimes see it, people who have devoted themselves very much to their spiritual life and have neglected their physical health. They don't take care of themselves, and they have all manner of tzoros physically that go on. There are people who really haven't been thoughtful enough about what they need to do to help ensure their family security as they're leading certain religious life. And it's not so simple, right? It's a very expensive way of life that observant living is. And on the other hand, we know people who've put their emphasis on the others. I'm so focused on my dollars or on my financial security, and that might come from an anxiety about that. But along the way, what if I've let go of having a deep internal core sense of who I am. And people who can fixate on their physical health, and they're at the gym or not in the gym right now, they're doing all those things, and they also, again, once more, they've defined their well-being without the spiritual role. Now, of course, there are other pieces which are kind of taken for granted. He has companionship. He has more than a family, right? More than spousal relationships. He's got 4 spouses, but we certainly would add that in. That part of the shleimut comes with having a world of people who are there caring for each other in all the ways people should care for one another, family. That's kind of already built in. I would add that in. But all these things are what comprise shleimut. And for us, I think, for folks like us here in the places where we inhabit, although again, making finances work is really a challenge. I know that, but for the most part, most of the listeners here are in a stable situation. And if you are not, then you should let me know. And it's part of our collective responsibility to try to help you. Most of us are at least responsible regarding our health. Most of us, I don't oversell it. Responsible to see doctors when we need to see doctors, and look after ourselves. I fear to say that the part that takes the biggest hit these days is the spiritual place. It doesn't mean that we don't go to shul, although that's also an issue. Are we going to shul? Right now we're starting to move indoors, starting the minyan now regularly at Temple Israel Center until we can move into our building, which will come soon. And that's really important. But just more critically, to look at oneself and what am I tending to? My neshama. What am I tending to my neshama to? To my Torah that I'm studying. I teach some really good classes, and that's about our interactions in the class. And it's such a shame that we have the core that come, and most other folks who lead busy lives, doing some of the other things too, that you're not tending to your Torah. Some of you are all learning Torah elsewhere. That's fine. But if you're not learning any Torah, that's not fine. That's not fine. And if you're not working on the spiritual growth, then there's a piece that's missing. All of this is part of what it means to be whole. And that's the bracha we want to give you, that and each other, that we should arrive at shleimut. In each of these ways, we should have our health and have our financial security, have the love of people around us, and have a spiritually meaningful life as well. Let's give that to one another, my friends, on this Shabbat of Parshat Vayishlach, as we learn from our ancestor, our great-great-grandfather, Yaakov. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.